You're walking down an aisle, you see something everyone else is just like completely obsessed with.
Oh, totally. We've all been there.
Right. And you look at it, you acknowledge it's objectively unique.
Mm.
But internally, you feel this undeniable, almost magnetic repulsion to it.
Yeah, you just kind of want to walk away.
Exactly. And
Yep.
today, we are opening up a highly specific, wonderfully introspective garden diary to figure out exactly why we do this.
It's a great piece.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this. We are looking at a short blog entry by an author named Ang, and it was published today, actually May 1st, 2026.
Right, hot off the presses.
Yeah, it's titled The Aesthetics of Aversion, Foregoing the Purple Shamrock. And, on the surface, this is just a post about a plant.
But it's really not just about a plant.
No, not at all. Underneath, we are exploring this really fascinating intersection of personal taste, persistent curiosity, and the things in this world that we simply choose to walk away from.
Because, when we decide we do not like something, we are rarely just making a passive observation,
Yep.
We are actively drawing a boundary around our own identity. We use these small daily rejections to signal to ourselves who we actually are.
Oh, I like that. Signaling to ourselves.
Yeah. And looking at this short post, we get a front row seat to that exact psychological process. And it's documented in real time by someone who clearly spends an inordinate amount of time thinking about what belongs in their space and what doesn't.
Yeah, and the very first thing that jumps out from this source, before Ang even gets to the plant in question, is a tiny but absolutely crucial detail.
The subtitle.
Yes, the post has a subtitle, and it's Notes on Gardening, Part 882.
Part 882.
Right. Let's really think about that number for a second. 882.
It's wild.
It is wild. Because if someone is writing their 882nd note on a single hobby, this implies a massive, practically encyclopedic database of personal preference.
Exactly.
This is not some casual weekend observer who just happened to, wander into a nursery and point at a leaf. This is someone with a deep, thoroughly documented relationship with gardening.
And that completely reframes the narrative here.
Totally.
Because when someone has documented their experiences to that degree, they have developed a highly sophisticated palette for their craft. Writing 882 entries means, well, you have spent years categorizing successes and failures.
Right. You know what works.
You know the exact shade of green that looks best against your terracotta pots. You know what thrives in your specific light, and more importantly, you know what brings you joy.
Yeah.
So when Ang writes about a specific aesthetic aversion, it carries the weight of all that prior, meticulously cataloged experience. It is a highly educated rejection.
Which makes the scenario Ang sets up so incredibly relatable and honestly a bit funny.
Yeah, the garden center scene.
Exactly. So Ang describes being at the garden center, walking down the aisles, seeing the purple shamrock, which is scientifically known as Oxalis triangularis, by the way, stopping, and actually wondering if this is the time they should finally buy it.
It's a literal psychological tug of war in the middle of a store.
It is. And it instantly made me think of the modern experience of, leaving an item in an online shopping cart for literally months.
Oh my gosh, yes. The dreaded cart.
Right. You see a pair of shoes, you put them in the cart, you stare at them, you close the tab.
And then a week later,
you open the tab, you stare at them again. But you know you aren't going to buy them. You know they aren't quite your style. But wait, if Ang's gardening identity is this locked in, and they have 882 notes proving they know exactly what they want, why is there a pause at all?
it's a great question.
Like, why not just walk right past the aisle?
Well, what's fascinating here is that curiosity is an incredibly powerful disruptive force in the human brain. And honestly, it doesn't care how many notes you've written.
Right, curiosity doesn't read the notes.
Exactly. Curiosity actively challenges our established boundaries. The brain sees something popular and asks, am I missing out? Have my tastes evolved since the last time I looked at this?
Yeah, like, could I be the kind of person who likes this now?
Spot on. The pause at the garden center, or, the lingering online shopping cart, is the brain running a brief simulation of an alternate identity.
It's almost like we are testing the perimeter of our own tastes, just checking to see if the fence we built around our identity is still standing.
That's a great way to put it. And what Ang articulates so clearly is that while curiosity initiates that pause, it does not win the debate.
Right.
Ang writes, my personal taste always wins out. So the established aesthetic identity overrules the disruptive force of curiosity.
Yeah, the rational, inquisitive mind says, let's investigate this popular thing.
But the emotional core, the part of the brain that actually processes aesthetic pleasure, steps in and says, no, we already ran this simulation, we know who we are, and this is not us.
We know who we are. I mean, that's a heavy realization to have over a potted plant.
It really is.
But for curiosity to overpower 882 entries of established taste, even for a moment, this plant must be visually arresting.
Oh, absolutely.
And looking at Eng's physical description of the Oxalis triangularis, it's pretty easy to see why it causes a bottleneck in the aisle. Eng spends a good portion of this short post deconstructing the plant.
Breaking down exactly what it looks like.
Right. And they readily admit that many gardeners have a soft spot for it and concede that it is definitely an intriguing plant. So there is no denial of its objective value here.
Right. Eng isn't saying it's a bad plant.
Exactly. Then we get the specific physical description. So it has this deep purple color, triangular leaflets, and a specific way they grow in sets of threes.
Eng is very careful to acknowledge the plant's unique characteristics. It is not being dismissed as ordinary at all.
Yeah.
Eng sees exactly what everyone else sees. I mean, the deep purple is a stark departure from standard green foliage.
Which is what you usually expect.
Right. And the triangular shape of the leaflets is mathematically precise, which is incredibly rare in natural botany, where things tend to be, fractal and organic.
Yeah, nature doesn't usually do perfect triangles.
Exactly. And growing in sets of threes, that trifoliate structure adds this layer of rigid structural rhythm.
When I read that description, deep purple sharp triangles, rule of threes, it sounds more like a striking piece of goth geometric art to me.
Oh, totally.
Or like a modern architectural design, rather than a leafy, living thing. It sounds incredibly cool.
It does.
And usually, we're drawn to things that break the mold, things that stand out from the sea of green. So with such a bold, distinctly architectural trait, how can someone possibly be averse to it?
It seems counterintuitive.
Yeah. How does something so geometrically and chromatically unique fail to win someone over?
Well, the answer lies in the cognitive disconnect between recognizing a trait and enjoying a trait.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, a distinct trait does not automatically guarantee aesthetic pleasure. We often conflate uniqueness with beauty, but they are entirely different cognitive processes.
Right, so the brain sees it.
The brain recognizes the uniqueness, the triangles, the dark color, but the translation into dopamine, into that feeling of beauty, it just fails to occur. Ah, I see.
And Eng's exact phrasing is incredibly telling here. They write that the look just doesn't click, and that despite the foliage being a distinct trait, it feels unappealing.
Doesn't click. It's like having a USB-C cable for a device that only takes HDMI.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right. Both are highly advanced pieces of tech. Both function perfectly. They are unique and well-designed, but the hardware simply won't talk to each other. Eng's aesthetic hardware is just completely incompatible with this plant.
Exactly. The brain acknowledges the rarity of the visual data, but the mechanism of aesthetic appreciation requires resonance, not just rarity.
Resonance.
Right. We do not experience beauty merely by checking off a list of interesting attributes. The geometry and the color must align with our internal, often unarticulated, aesthetic frequency.
Yeah, and if it doesn't align?
If the hardware doesn't match, no amount of geometric uniqueness will force the connection. The data simply bounces off.
Okay, let's add the final visual element Eng brings up, because this is where the narrative really reaches its peak, I think.
The flowers. Yes, the flowers. We have this deep purple goth geometric plant. Then Eng points out the flowers. These little white flowers are added into the mix, and Eng explicitly notes that they contrast well with the dark purple leaves.
A classic contrast.
Right, but then comes the final verdict, the ultimate aesthetics of aversion, as the title says. Despite the unique shapes, the deep colors, and the stark, objectively good contrast of the white flowers against the dark leaves.
Drum roll, please.
Eng concludes that the whole thing just feels a bit dull.
It's amazing. That is the crux of the entire entry, and a brilliant aesthetic paradox.
It is a total paradox. I mean, contrast by definition is what makes things pop.
Right.
Think about a striking black and white photograph, or a bold, high-contrast outfit, or even typography black text on a crisp white page.
It draws the eye.
Exactly. Contrast creates visual energy. It forces the eye to pay attention. So how in the world does adding bright white to dark purple make something dull?
It feels backwards.
It does. Is it possible that contrast is just too stark? Like maybe it's almost too artificial looking for a natural garden space?
Well, dullness in this context isn't about a lack of color or a lack of visual energy. It is about a lack of emotional resonance caused by sensory overload.
Sensory overload.
Yeah, when every single element of an object is highly contrasting and screaming for attention, the elements just cancel each other out.
Wait, how does it cancel out? Like visual white noise?
That is the perfect way to understand it, yes. Think about how white noise works in audio.
Okay.
White noise is literally every frequency playing simultaneously at high volume. Because everything is loud at once, the brain's audio processing gets overwhelmed.
Right, it just blends together.
Exactly. It gives up trying to distinguish individual sounds and just tunes it all out into a flat, dull hum.
Oh, wow.
And the Oxalis triangularis is doing the exact same thing visually. It has stark geometric triangles turned up to a 10. It has deep unnatural purple turned up to a 10. It has bright contrasting white flowers turned up to a 10.
Oh, I see. Because every single visual element is operating at maximum intensity, the brain's pattern recognition gets completely overwhelmed.
Precisely. The brain looks at this plant and cannot categorize it as relaxing organic nature. It is too designed, too rigid, and too loud.
Yeah, it's just too much.
And because it can't find a place to rest the eye, the brain simply tunes the visual input out entirely, resulting in a feeling of dullness or apathy.
That is fascinating.
The contrast is technically perfect, but it doesn't evoke anything. It fails to evoke joy, curiosity, or even a pleasant sense of calm. It just sits there being loudly purple and white.
Just shouting to the void.
Pretty much, and this proves that an aesthetic of aversion isn't always about actively hating something because it is ugly.
Right. There is zero disgust in Aang's posts. There's no anger at all. Aang isn't offended by the purple shamrock.
Not at all. True aversion, the kind Aang is documenting here, is about feeling absolutely nothing towards something that is technically beautiful. It is the realization that a combination of visually loud elements has resulted in total emotional silence. That is the dullness. It is the dullness of apathy in the face of expected wonder.
The dullness of apathy in the face of expected wonder. I love that. That perfectly captures that feeling when you are standing in front of like a famous painting at a museum.
Yes, or listening to a critically acclaimed album.
Right, or staring at an Oxalis triangularis in a garden center.
Yeah.
And everyone around you is gasping in awe. They're taking photos, they are buying it, and you are just standing there thinking, I feel absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it can feel incredibly isolating in the moment.
It really can. But as Aang shows us through these 882 notes, it is also fiercely validating. Feeling nothing is a reaffirmation of who you actually are.
It takes a profound level of self-assurance to simply accept that emotional silence, to stop trying to force the HDMI cable into the USB port.
Yeah, to stop trying to make it click.
Exactly, and to just walk past the plant.
To just close the browser tab and let the shopping cart expire.
Yeah.
We have traveled from the bright aisles of a garden center, through the rigid geometry of a purple leaf, all the way to the cognitive realization that our personal tastes are incredibly, sometimes frustratingly, stubborn.
Very stubborn.
But that stubbornness is a feature, not a bug. Now, I want you to reflect on your own life. Think about your own purple shamrocks.
Everyone has one.
Definitely. What is that one popular, objectively interesting thing in your world right now? Maybe it's a best-selling book everyone is talking about, a massive cultural trend, a highly recommended piece of tech, or, yes, a specific houseplant.
What is that thing?
What is that thing that everyone else just absolutely loves, but that always, without fail, leaves you feeling just a bit dull?
Identifying those specific aversions maps the negative space of our personalities. I mean, we are defined just as much by what we choose to leave on the shelf as we are by what we bring into our homes.
That brings us to a final thought I really want to leave you with. Something to mull over as you go about the rest of your day, making those tiny unconscious judgments about what you like and what you don't.
It's a great question to ask yourself.
Yeah. If our personal tastes are so rigidly defined that we can practically script our own aversions in advance, just like Aang knowing, deep down, they will reject that purple shamrock every single time they stop to look at it. Are we protecting a beautifully, carefully curated personal aesthetic? Or are we simply trapping ourselves in a visual echo chamber, forever magnetic to the things we already know and forever repelled by the unfamiliar?
It's a fine line.
It really is. Something to think about the next time you feel that undeniable repulsion kicking in. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning your taste, keep leaving things in your cart, and we'll catch you next time.